Hi all, welcome to the channel, welcome to the workshop. Today we're carrying on with the Mallard. This time we're doing issue 30 and we're turning our attention back to the chassis of the tender. So let's get into it, let's get building. Right, so here we are back with the Mallard. So this is issue 30. And as you can see, we've got a small piece of metalwork, and that's looking just like that. Now, interesting enough, I've got issue 30 here, and you can see that piece of metal in there, but we've also got a load of piping in there, which doesn't seem to be mentioned on this at all. So I'm not sure what the rest of that is for. As you can see, we're just adding some extra details to the lower part of the chassis here. And we've got a bit that we're making up that's going to actually keep to one side for now. Adding a small plate. And then we'll end up with something that looks like that, which is very similar to what we've got already, with just a couple extra details on it. So it doesn't look to be much, but it looks a little bit fiddly, certainly very small parts. So we'll get on with that in a moment. This week we've got Britain's Railways. And we've got classic locomotives. Right, so this is the part we're actually interested in. As you can see, it's a very tiny piece with very tiny pieces on it. But I don't know what these are for. So I'm just going to put them in the bag and put them to one side. But it looks like we've just got various lengths of wire and a bit of brass rod as well. So I'll put those to one side, because I'm sure at some point we might need them. We do need a small bit of wire, and it does mention that. However, not from this packet. It mentioned the 0.5mm wire we got in issue 14. So I put all that lot to one side. So we've got the wire from issue 14 that we're going to need a small amount of. So I'll leave that one over there for the minute. So the very first part we're going to need is this very small piece here. I'm going to use small a lot in this video, I feel. With the chassis this way around, we've got this piece that's just going to sit just around that bracket, like so. And we just need to glue that in place. Right, so we've got that piece just in there. And then to follow that up, we've got even smaller pieces. So we've got these two tiny little oval type things here. And believe it or not, they do have a semi-rivet detail on them. Now, I don't know if you can even see that on any of these cameras. I'm going to try and put it on this one here. It'll focus. So we've got these two small pieces here. And they need to go into the two little oval slots you can see here and here. And again, because it is so small, I'm not even sure whether that will pick up on camera. I've got my very sharp sprue cutters. Right, so both of those are in there, and I'm using the tiniest amount of glue just to run around the perimeter on that and just hold it in place with a pair of tweezers so the glue doesn't take it away. So that's those two in there. We now don't need the chassis anymore for the minute, because we're next getting this piece here, and this has got to be the largest piece we've got in this entire build pack. And when I say large, it's about that big, which is still the size of my fingernail. Just going to clean up the edges on that a little bit. And what we need to do, we've got the two very small holes just there, and we need a bit of this 0.5 wire that we had in issue 14, and we're just going to put a small amount through the holes, and we want about 0.25mm either side of the hole when we're finished. So I think what I'm going to do I'm going to use the length of it is a minute, dip it in some glue, put it into the hole, and then cut it off. So that's one in there, just going to cut off that excess. And then just going to do the exact same thing with the other hole. So we ended up with something that looks just like that. Now, I will let the glue solidify on that one a lot better, because what we need to do, we need to just file down either side of this. So it's about 0.25 of a millimeter. So I'm going to let that one set before I do that. Now, the very last thing we need to do is the very last tiny detail, and that's this square plate. And again, I'm just going to clean up the edges. And this tiny square detail is going to go just over here. So this has a slot in it. We're just going to match up that slot with the slot that's already here in the chassis, like so. And then all I'm going to do is run a little bit of glue around it just to secure that in place. So again, just holding this in place, and I'm going to run some glue around it. Right, and that is all there is to do in that stage. And at the end of that, it looks exactly the same as when we started. And considering that we've obviously got this little piece here, this little piece here, and these two tiny, tiny pieces just in there, we put all that detail in. Where are they going to end up? You guessed it. Under the chassis, where no one's ever going to see it. But I know they're there, you know they're there, so that's all that matters. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please remember to give it a big thumbs up. So that was a real faff. Those tiny, tiny fiddly pieces. I don't think anyone would notice if they weren't even there. I'd love for someone to tally up the amount of times I used the word tiny in this video, because they were some tiny, tiny pieces. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were the smallest pieces that we've used on this build so far. Still no idea what these are. I'm going to put them safe to one side and hopefully maybe get used later on in the build. Might get referenced at some other point. Obviously, we did use a 0.5mm wire, but that was specifically came from issue 14, and the magazine specifically said that. And we only used, a 1/4 of a mil, effectively, maybe 2 mil maximum from that wire. So still don't know what these are, although it does look like there was a 0.5mm wire in there, so maybe just some spares. Who knows? But that's how far we are at the minute. So we got back onto the chassis, which is nice. I don't know what we're doing next week, but we'll find out. If you want to see that or anything else that goes on in the workshop, please do remember to hit the subscribe button and ding that bell. Then you'll be notified when I release a new video. Until the next time, I'll see you around. Cheers.